where I'm with, and it's life. And the point is enjoying who you share it with. Joy is who you share it with. And the weeks and the weekends are keeping close who you spending with. And in time, what you find is the time is who you spend it with. Joy is who you share it with. Who you share it with. Who you share it with.
I cannot hear you.
So good, bro. Shout out to Ricky who put that together. Hey, man, it was so good. We got to spend some time together, didn't we, from that video?
We did.
We did. It was
We did.
solid, bro. It was a beautiful location, and the kind of programming and content was top notch. What was your takeaway?
I was
Or
going to
takeaway?
ask you the same things. But you know, it's funny in the video. Did you see that part where I was kind of holding the door shut? And you,
Yeah, that was me in the bathroom. Yeah.
right. Did you know that at that time, or
I didn't know it at the time because I was like trying to get out, and then like you were there.
That's funny. I was wondering if you ever found out that was me. I was like, oh, maybe like throughout the video he'll find out. This is kind of my takeaway. And shortly after we had the leadership retreat, we had Sharper Solutions, which they come out. They do a quarterly meeting with us. They do a weekly meeting with us to kind of help us achieve our goals. And he kind of broke down like this thing of like an ideal employee, or not an ideal employee, an ideal team member, and how to break it down. And he broke it down into 4 different categories. And he said the first one is desire. Said the second one is skills. The third one is knowledge. And the fourth one is experience, basically. So when I was at the retreat, I realized, or this was one of the talks that I did, that getting the lead is the easiest one out of all of them. Having the knowledge, the skills, and the desire to be able to convert those leads, that was the most challenging part for most people. And then even looking at it as well too, I'm like, okay, like why are some agents like more successful than others? And then I was like, that desire one's like a really, really big one, you know?
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing about desire is that that is not something that can be taught,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting, like on calls, and I'm sure you see it too, with the events that you do and stuff. I think a lot of the focus is on, perhaps knowledge and skills, which are great at the same time, without the desire to apply and without this burning desire to accomplish some sort of goal and objective for whatever that reason may be, to support your family, support charities, financial freedom and independence, like whatever it is, that all that information and all that guidance really is not that useful, right? It's like inert. So in other words, what just popped into my head is, let's say you have dynamite. The desire is the wick. So when you light it, then you can get this, kind of big energetic reaction, right?
Yeah.
But, it's not something that can be taught. But for those who have a desire, our goal and objective with the ecosystem or the events that we build, that we're doing, and the ecosystem that we're creating is for those that have a desire. And again, we can't teach you that. You have to come with it, right? we can give you the skills, the knowledge from our own
To
direct
help you get the
experience.
experience, basically.
Yeah. To help you get the experience and then ultimately help you to produce, the results that you're after.
Yeah. What I got from it too, and I thought that was cool. I was watching the video and then I see my wife there. And what I thought about, I was like, how life changing is that for her as well, too, to be involved in a community like that, where
Mm.
she can connect with other powerful women who are on the same path and dealing with some of the same challenges that she deals with as well, too. And the help that that brings, because I've mentioned this to you before, obviously, that her being involved in some of the women's masterminds is extremely helpful, even like the book club. So I think about that as the community aspect of it and how powerful that can be, being part of the right community where people are sharing the skills, the knowledge to help you get the experience. Obviously, we can't help you with the desire. You either have it or you don't, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And this, and if me, you, and Mariela and Carla did a panel, I know that uniformly we would all agree that selling real estate in high volume is actually really hard. And it's very taxing, not just kind of physically, mentally, but also, emotionally and spiritually in a way, right? Like it's just really difficult to do. That's why such a very small percentage of people do it. And, to have guides that are a little bit further down the path that you can connect with, that can speak to your experience that you're having, and then also provide a little bit of guidance and instruction as far as like, oh, you're here. I remember being here. Here's some things you might want to start thinking about now. It's enormous, dude. It's huge. And like me and Carla talked about, at the retreat, in one of the talks that we did, that your most important partner in business is your significant other, if you do have a significant other. And if you guys aren't on the same page with regards to alignment in terms of what are we really doing here? Are we just optimizing based on society's kind of like society's goal and objective, which is to maximize for comfort and convenience and optimize for comfort and convenience? Or are we going to optimize for time freedom and location freedom? Because those are two completely different paths that have different choices that lead to completely different destinations. And then getting clear on roles, right? There are clear roles. There's a leadership role. There's a kind of a supporter role, and understanding the power of each one because they're both equally as powerful. And then, setting on this path of doing when you mix desire, skills, knowledge, you get some experience. And then, when I first met you, you were doing like 20 deals a year. You're on track to do 150 this year. And that's a testament to not only your desire, but also, again, making sure you get proximity to the skills, the knowledge, and the experience. You said something in a group chat today, which made me chuckle. You're like, yeah, dude, I just did what Aaron told me to do. They were all like, wow, that's so amazing. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's not complicated. Like, it's pretty
Simple.
Yeah, it's just not to be confused with easy.
Yeah. I agree with that. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like the two different paths. So like, let's say that, and this was like helpful for me as well too, and I think it was helpful for my wife. Maybe we could talk about the two, because this was actually my wife's takeaways as well too. The different roles. We can talk about the different roles, and then we could also talk about, okay, what are we optimizing for? So what Aaron and I came to the conclusion is that, okay, let's say that you start making money in real estate, right? Like significant amounts of money. What are you optimizing it for? And the way that he broke it down is that there's going to be two roads once you start making money that you can take. The first road is status, comfort, and convenience, meaning like you start upgrading your lifestyle. You start buying like cars, you start buying like upgrading like houses and fancier vacations. That's one road. Obviously, that gives a certain level of status. The other road is like, okay, you start making money and you're like, okay, I'm going to optimize for time freedom and location freedom. You start taking that money, you start dumping it into things that allow you to back by your time. And that was really helpful for me because it's like, okay, look, guys, there's only 2 roads. Like, which one are you going to optimize for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize, one of the quotes I shared was like, if hard work was all it took, the donkey would own the farm. Because nobody works harder than the donkey, right? And the other one, which is interesting, is that the whole like goal of a programmer of a game is to elongate the amount of time before the player of the game realizes that it's pointless. So I think we have been given this kind of game to play culturally around status and comfort. And yet the way I've seen it play out for most is that that game leads to them not having time freedom and location freedom, and not being able to pour into things that we know, not only intellectually, but also experientially, actually have way more value, like relationships, like your health and things of that nature, right? So, not being clear and sitting down and having a conversation about, hey, what is the ultimate goal and objective? The siren call of kind of society is really, really powerful and strong, and you end up drifting into that. And I know you wouldn't mind me sharing, like, even as you started to make money, you started to like just a little bit, like you were like, and I remember I had to tap you on it. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, oh yeah, my bad. And then you pivoted. So, yeah. So I think what's also true is really getting clear on beliefs behind it. So like, as I've had the good fortune, somebody asked me recently, I've probably spent like 10,000 hours on like coaching calls, right? Maybe more. And I would be intellectually incapable if I didn't start to notice patterns. Just by paying attention, being on so many calls. Just like you've been on so many prospecting calls, like you would have to be like intellectually slow to not notice patterns, right? And one of these patterns is that there's results that we get, and then there's behaviors, but behind that is beliefs. And most of the time people will come, perhaps let's say to me or you, and they'll say, hey, I want to change this behavior. And they'll look for like a prescription on how to change the behavior. The problem is that if they don't address the belief, the behavior will never stick. So one of the things to examine is like, what's underneath the belief that status and comfort is the way? Well, one of those beliefs is that what other people think matters, right? Another belief is that like significance is a way that I can show people that I'm like better than them in some way, right? That's what's like really underneath it. So like, as you begin to examine that, but then if you look at the flip side, it's like, okay, what are the beliefs behind optimizing for time freedom and location freedom? Well, one is the most valuable thing that I own is my time. The most valuable thing that I own, because it's a non-refundable commodity, right? Brings with it the gift of life, the gift of experience. Without it, nothing else exists. Another belief is that I never want anybody to have any ownership over my time or my body. Like that's freedom, right? If I owe somebody something or I have a debt or whatever, and I know that there's different types of debt, but like somebody has control over my time or money. If somebody makes me sign a contract for 3 years for my services, right? They have control over my time and my body. And then the third is like a belief, because I showed these graphs that, the amount of time that we spend with our children drops precipitously after the age where we turn like 40-ish. It starts to drop down dramatically, right? Like 90% of the time we spend with them is from the time they're 0 to 18. Same thing with family members, right? So recognizing that, hey, that's really the thing that's the most valuable. And as somebody who just watched, a loved one pass away, like he wasn't reaching for his 401k account. He wasn't reaching for the keys to his car. He was reaching for the hands of his loved ones. You know what I'm saying? So, once you get clear on those beliefs, then it all starts to click in place. So it's like, oh, this vehicle of selling real estate is like the golden ticket. If you've ever seen the movie Willy Wonka, where he gets so happy when he finds the golden ticket that allows him to go to the Wonka factory. And he even sings a song. He's like, I've got the golden ticket. Well, the golden ticket was that license that me and you got where you had to get a 75 on a test, not be a felon, and have $1,000. And you can use that golden ticket in combination with your desire, very specific, specialized set of skills on how to sell, some specialized knowledge, right? And you can raise a lot of cash quickly. Now, the question is, and you'll earn over time as you go, right? So my experience is, you know, just like yours, I didn't make a bunch of money at first, but as those things started to compound, I made more and more and more. But then there was this fork in the road. And what I see most people do, unfortunately, is choose the fork of status and comfort. And then it creates a problem for them, right? Where the backstop, they're basically a CEO that's ripping out all the cash. They're not building something, they're just selling something, and they're ripping out as much cash as they can just to fund their lifestyle. Versus time freedom and location freedom, where now you're like, oh, let me pour back into myself, because me and you have both spent a lot of money on personal growth and development, masterminds, like whatever, courses, so I can earn more money. And then let me pour it back into my business, because that allows me to make more money. And then let me pour it into assets that pay me money. And, you know, if you do that properly, I think like a good, like somebody who has a good athletic career, you could do this business for 10 or 15 years and then like not have to, you know, you could be financially free and independent based on income that your assets are producing.
Yeah. How long did you sell real estate for?
17 years.
17 years.
I was like Tom Brady, you know what I mean?
That's great, man. Yeah, I'm at, I started in 2011, so I'm at 14 years basically right now.
Yeah. So I think based on your plans, you might be like a little bit sooner before me, before you pull the plug, as it should be though, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. But that's like an example where, like, you know, if you do this for that length of time, 17, 18, you know, maybe 20 years, if you're a good steward of resources and you start in your 20s, let's say in your mid 40s, you could, you know, do something else with your time if you chose to, or no longer have to, you know, grind at a super high level in order to produce particular outcomes.
You know what I think would be really helpful to people? Like everybody who starts making money in real estate, to show them 2 different movies, like just like a movie, and be like, all right. And this is kind of like one of my gifts that I feel like I can see certain patterns. So like the 2 movies that I thought about, okay, like, look, this is the route this is a movie of when people go for status, comfort, and convenience, basically. And this is what it looks
Yeah.
like. This is what the lifestyle looks like. This is what it
This-
looks like.
this
But
is the outcomes.
go into the finances, go into like, because sometimes like there was a time where I was kind of drifting and I wanted to buy a Rolls Royce at that time. And then you instructed me to instead pay off some credit cards that I had. And then shortly after that, the marketplace transitioned a little bit. It was like 2018. I was so glad that I did, but like showcase those types of things in the movie. And then elongate it, or however you pronounce that word, over like, okay, like how does that path lead to when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or even the 80s, basically. Here, when I think about that movie, this is kind of what I kind of saw. I when I was young, there was people that would make a lot more money than my parents did. Like, meaning like they were like successful business owners, had mechanics. And I look at the movie as to how their life played out, and I look at the way that my parents' life played out, and the people that um that made a lot more money, at some point something changed, where something in the marketplace changed, where, or something in their business model, or something where they were no longer making the amount of money that they were making at some point. And a lot of them would kick themselves in the butt, being like, hey, if only I would have been smarter with the money that I was making, or had I only invested the money that I was making, I wouldn't be here driving Uber in my 60s or my 70s, basically, to get a little bit of an extra check. And then I saw the way that my parents did it, and I was like, okay, like every year, like they would buy like a rental property. And I look at the movie as to how their life played out, and I'm like, man, like I think that would be like really, really helpful for people as they start making money. And then just asking them the question, be like, hey, look, like which one are you optimizing for? And I think that, yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah, well, what made me think about as you were saying that is a couple movies that actually have done that to some degree, but in a different vein. Like, so if you think of like A Christmas Carol, where Ebenezer Scrooge gets visited by three, like the ghost of past, present, and the future, and he gets to see in the future like the culmination of kind of his behaviors, which are based on beliefs, which is money, you know, like is the thing to be worshipped, and what that ends up causing or creating in terms of outcomes. So yeah, but it would be interesting, like a Netflix thing where you follow someone who's following that path, and then also what they're doing on the back end to deal with stress and worry, and how they're trying to convince themselves, like, hey, this is the way and this is the move, and how it could lead to, you know, relationship deterioration and health deterioration and wealth ultimately deterioration, because every time relationships don't work out, that's wildly expensive. We've been around people that have had like 4 or 5 of those experiences in their life, which is, you know, interesting.
Yeah.
Versus optimizing for, you know, time freedom, location freedom. I think the challenge is the environment that we're in is where our time preference is really high, right? Because of, you know, and what I mean by time preference is we optimize and value future more, I mean, current, like present, more than we do future.
Yeah.
And, you know, that might be because of situations that we've created, right? In terms of like lifestyle. So, and this is very applicable now with what's going on in the marketplace, because, you know, we go from 6.5 million to 3.9, and we've had that consistently over 3 years, and shared at the leadership retreat. And I've said it, you know, 2 years ago when a lot of these gurus were screaming from the rooftops that rates were going to come down. I was like, dude, if that's, you're just either you don't know, which is fine, you get a pass if you don't know, or you are being disingenuous, because if you really understood the way the economic system works, the probability that's going to happen is really, really small. And in fact, that's what we've seen play out. I believe that'll continue to play out, despite what you hear in the news, that rates will stay higher for longer. So we're equipping everybody with what they need in order to strategically, in order to do more deals in this environment, you know, whether that be sniping things down from lead sources that have higher densities of motivated sellers like Probate. And so many people, I don't know if you see in the chat how many people are getting great results from that, which is fantastic. And then we're combining that with helping people to convert leads more, which is understanding more product knowledge, so they can understand the creative side and provide more options. And that's allowing them to do more deals and create more revenue. And all of that's great. And we have people in the ecosystem that are having, yourself included, that are having like record years, even though the vast majority of everybody else is having a difficult time. And that's because the strategy is superior, right? So business is just strategy and people. There's a second component though, which is this backstop, because I think a lot of what's causing, you know, this, you know, a lot of stress or worry or anxiousness is that during the good times, you know, lifestyle was inflated, and now that's becoming problematic because revenue's gone down.
Well, what it forces me to think is that if you are optimizing for status and comfort, and almost like, and there's a lot of people like that out there that like literally, like, I remember at my first office on closing date, bro, people would drive 40 minutes to go pick up their check, and they would be waiting for the girl to give them their check for like 30 minutes or an hour or
like,
whatever.
I need it right now.
Like, I need it right now. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, like that is like horrible.
Yeah.
And like my broker would get mad at me because I'd have like 10 checks, bro, that I wouldn't deposit. And the first time it happened, his bank account, he thought he had all this money and his bank account just dropped. And he's like, what just happened? And he looked at all my checks. And then he's like, hey, bro, you need to like cash your checks when I actually give them to you, because I'm over here thinking I've got all this money. And the reality is I don't, you know? But what it makes me think about is when somebody is optimizing for the status and comfort, a lot of times it could lead to making some poor financial decisions. And then it leads to decisions like I was offered $250,000 to basically switch companies at some point. And the reason I was able to say no to that was because I was in a good financial position.
Yeah, you were able to, well, two things. One, you were in a good financial position. So that wasn't like as appealing as it would be to others, the vast majority of others who are not. The second is you saw it as for what it is, which is a
Pay advance.
Yeah,
Pay
you
advance.
recognize like, hey, I'm going to give you way more than that over the time frame that you want me to sign this agreement. So I think that is interesting. You bring up an interesting point that with financial, I think we focus on financial freedom and independence only from the perspective of, you know, what it'll do for you in terms of having ownership over your time. But we drastically underestimate what I said with regards to like somebody having power or control over your body and your time.
Yeah.
Where like you're able to really be independent, truly independent, when you don't, you know, that somebody can't persuade you in that way. Right.
I agree. The other thing that I thought was helpful, and this was helpful for my wife and I, is to uh, go over the different roles in the businesses and what role each player has, whether it's a primary or a supportive goal. A long time ago, you gave me some advice to I was having issues with my administrative assistants where they were leaving like every year and a half, and I needed some stability because every time like it wouldn't work out, I'd have to go back and retrain somebody in that position. And then that would take time away from production. So it'd lead to like really, really busy, really, really slow, really, really busy, really, really slow. And for me, it was very helpful to have my spouse help me in the business. And basically, it got rid of the ups and downs because when she knew how to do it, she knew how to train other people and she knew how to hold them accountable. And shortly after that, we actually um, became, I'd probably say, better employers as well, too, where our systems got better, the opportunity got better. We started adding employee benefits and different things that add to retention, like health insurance and that sort of thing. But that was helpful, and it was funny because when I got married, we were buying a property right before we got married, and it was an FHA property with my wife, and it was like a 4-unit property, and we ended up falling out of escrow. And we fell out of escrow. My wife was like, "Hey, look, like we're gonna go all in," and I was like, "Look, we've got all this money coming in shortly after the wedding." She's like, "I don't want to be stressing." And I bailed on that property, and that was one of the few properties that I regret bailing on, bro.
Because you told me afterwards it's worth like a ton of money.
Yeah, I was in escrow for like 350. It literally sold. There was a probate auction where it was like literally right in front of the house where they auctioned off the property. And I fell out, passed it along to one of my friends. He flipped it and sold it for like $100,000 more than what I was in escrow at. And after that, we defined roles in our relationship. Shortly after that, I was like, "Okay, baby, I love you." He's like, "From this point forward, I make the business decisions and I make all the real estate acquisition decisions."
Yeah.
I'm like, "You can make all of the family decisions and I'm okay with that."
Yeah, and I'm aware like when people hear you you say that, they'll probably have some thoughts about it. At the same time, I do believe that society has really tried to influence us in terms of roles and the way we should think about them. And you know, in mine and Carla's presentation, you know, we talked about how there's two. There's like the leader, and then there's the supportive role. And the supportive role,
and that's not gender specific, guys.
not
Just so you know.
Yeah, it's not. And in the supportive role, though, Carla shared like she had to undo the lie that she was told, which is that the supportive role is demotive, that the supportive role is like less than, that in a supportive role, like she's being taken advantage of. When in fact, she showed this slide that shows like one person and everybody's standing on top of that one person. And it gets to be this huge kind of, you know, building of people. And she shared how she became aware, like, oh, no, like there's like an immense amount of power in
the
this
supportive
role.
role.
Yeah, in the supportive role, and her using her gifts and talents and abilities to do that. And I do find it very interesting that, you know, me and you have kind of a similar structure in that way. And when you get both people rowing in the same direction with clarity, not only in terms of like what we're optimizing for, but also in terms of what the roles are, we've been able to produce, some favorable outcomes, right? So, and if you don't do that, there's just lots of friction. At least that's my experience. And then we talked about like what's required of each role, because they each have their own requirements. And it's not easy. And Carla was like, yeah, you both have to bring like your A game. So she sees like where sometimes people want to be in the lead role, independent of gender, and want somebody else to be in the supportive role, but then they're not bringing their A game as a leader, because as a leader, I have to execute. I have to be the one that is clear on the direction and where we're going and why. It requires me to be vigilant and be constantly studying things. It requires me to sacrifice time.
And have good judgment as well,
and have
too.
good judgment. That's right.
And
it's a lot of responsibility, because it is. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
you could only be the leader if you're making like good judgment decisions, Like I know a lot of people want to take the lead, but then they end up making like poor choices that keep them stuck. And that leads to friction.
That's right.
It leads to the supportive role not trusting your decisions, and it leads to conflict in that department, basically.
Yeah, it leads to conflict, but it also leads to a breakdown in trust. So like the analogy I gave is like, let's say, you were going to go to the gym and somebody was like, yeah, we're going to go together and it's going to be great. You're like, all right, cool. And for the first 2 weeks they show up and then they just stop coming. They don't return your texts anymore. They're like ghosting you, right? So the first question is do you believe them anymore? No. And the second one is do you trust them anymore? And the answer is no. So not only do you need clarity around roles, you need clarity around what's required in those roles, but then you have to execute, because if you don't, then it breaks down in belief and it breaks down in trust, where like, we've made some decisions, and I know you have as well, where I say to Carla, like, hey, after a lot of triangulating ideas with believable people and studying and, thinking about it and praying about it, like, this is where we're going. And she's like, okay. And every time I've asked her, like, why do you just say, okay? She's like, because I trust you. You've always done what you say you're going to do. So if I call her up and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this mastermind around this book that I'm writing, and I think it'll be helpful, and here's how much it costs. She's like, yeah. Like, then people are like, oh, that's easy for you to say because, the resources. But like, she was doing that when I called her the first time I wanted to get coaching, and it was like 10% of my income for the year.
Yeah, 30%. Yeah.
Yeah, some 30%. It was wild. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. And she's like, how much is it? And I told her, and she's like, okay. Like,
I remember I was nervous about $1,000 a month.
Me too, bro.
Like,
I was
nervous. Like, literally, my friend Jim Gilday had to walk me back to the end of the event and said, hey, this guy's signing up for coaching. At that time, it was like something very large percentage of my income.
Right. Same for me. And I called Carla before I did it, just to be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And she was like, yeah, cool. Or then when I was like, hey, when she was like, this is really hard, and I know it is. And I told her, I sat her down, we were in the car, and I was like, hey, just give me 5 years, man. Like, I promise you, like, it'll be worth it. But then it's up to me to deliver. So as you deliver, you build up that trust. So then when I say to her, hey, we're going to sell back our interest in the company and we're going to do this, she's like, okay, let's do it.
Well, I think too, as a leader, is listening when the supportive role comes to you with like any sort of like concerns or anything like that, listening to those, addressing them, and then helping them see what the vision is as well too. Because I remember Mariela and I came to me, and by the time we were married, I already owned several properties. And when I bought properties at the very beginning, it was easier for me just to qualify for the loan for myself. So they would always ask her to sign a quick claim deed at the very beginning. Like very first year that we got married. And then the escrow officer made a comment to her. He's like, Mija, like, are you sure you want to like sign these things? Like the quick claim deed? Like, like, do you know what this means? Like, like I thought you guys were married, this and that. And like, I remember like her having a concern. She's like, hey, Jose Luis, like, are we building this together, or like, are you like trying to like make it so that like only you would receive some sort of benefit of like what we're building? And I basically went to her. I'm like, no, like it's just easier to do it this way for now. But I'm like, look, this is what I'll do just to show you my commitment to you and my commitment to my family. I'm like, at some point we're going to go to a trust attorney, and the trust attorney, we're going to put everything under the name of the trust, and we're going to basically designate everything the way that it is. And I remember when I did that, it was like a year later, but I just remember like being able to deliver on that promise that I made her. And almost like okay, like this guy delivers on what he says to me, basically.
That's right.
You
And I
know,
can trust him.
I could trust them, which that's the main thing, building that trust in a supportive role or a supportive or lead role, basically.
Hey, Roy's funny, bro. Roy's like, Carla's got Aaron's back since the Dead Man Suits collection. That's true, bro. The first suit I ever bought was at an estate sale where the guy, I went to the estate sale, and the guy who passed away had a closet full of suits, and he happened to, I guess, be like my shape and size. So I bought a suit for like $20, and I wore that thing like all the time on all the appointments with a little pocket square. So I'm like, forever. The joke between me and Carla is
The Dead Man Suit.
the Dead Man's collection. It's like, yo, is that the Dead Man's collection? It's like, yes, sir. That's exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
That's too funny. Barrick asked, what did he say? Any tips on a new agent, young agents? Also tip on how to get out of learning phase. Yeah. So I think I understand your question. I think the thing to be really clear about, guys, is that the purpose of learning is doing.
100%.
So if it's very easy in an age of an overabundance of information, like we're awash with information. And it's very easy for us to confuse gathering information with learning, right? So once we're clear on the definition of learning, then we can get equally as clear as to what the gathering of information actually is, because it's only the beginning of the process. So the purpose of learning is to learn about the thing so you can learn to do the thing, and then you actually do the thing. So there's 3 steps. The gathering of the information on YouTube or books or whatever is an important part of the process, but it's actually the beginning, right? And then I have to start applying what it is that I'm learning. So when people say like any tips, what they're really saying is, how can you help me to get over the emotional barrier of not wanting to make a mistake? And it's really unfortunate in our formal learning that we're taught to not make mistakes, right? Like our formal education is not really about learning. It's about memorization primarily. And if you don't memorize properly, you get punished. And we also call like collaborating with other people cheating, which is like dumb in the real world. Like if you're not collaborating, if me and Jose weren't collaborating with each other, we wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So if you find yourself in that kind of analysis paralysis, it's because you're truthfully emotionally scared to make a mistake. And what I would suggest or propose to you is that, frustration is a precursor for learning. And on the other side of fear are the skills that you actually want to acquire. And I'd love to be able to outsource, like, push-ups to people in the Philippines, and I get diesel, but that's not the way it works with skill acquisition. So you just have to put in the reps, like you hear me or Jose now, and like, I could tell you from my perspective, I was not, I made $13,000 my first year selling real estate. Like I was not good, quote unquote, good at this. And when I first met Jose, when we were role playing together, like he was okay. He's not the rock star that he is today. But the only way that anybody can acquire that skill is through repetition. And again, it's more of an emotional hurdle than it is anything else. So one, being overly attached to how people perceive you. These people are strangers, the vast majority of them. I love walking into a room and being like, to Carla, I'd be like, hey, I wonder how many people in this large room I've spoken to and called me a name that my mom didn't give me.
Yeah.
And they have no idea, right? So like getting over that kind of mental map, getting over the mental map of making mistakes and that they're bad when they're actually, that's how you learn.
Good.
Yeah. When I went down the path, I mean, this whole media thing, I find it hilarious that now, like, a brokerage of 82,000 agents asks me to teach their top teams, 169 teams, about media, when 4 years ago, I was the guy who used to make fun of people who did media. And I promise you at the beginning, it wasn't good. If you go back and watch the first episode, it was with Jose, and the power went out while we were doing it, and the camera equipment was crappy, and the editing was not good. Like, if you're not embarrassed by your first attempt, like, you waited too long, right?
Yeah.
So it's just getting over those emotional barriers, because information is not power. Applied information is, and usually it's kind of fear or insecurity that causes us to not actually apply what it is that we're learning.
Yeah. What I used to do is I would do all day and then educate myself in overtime, basically. But I would just do. And a lot of people, I think that they want to educate during the time that you should be doing as well, too.
Well, yeah, and what the truth is that education feels good. You get to hide behind a screen. You don't have to talk to anybody. It gives you little hits of dopamine. Like, you feel like it feels good, but we
There's no
confuse it.
rejection.
Yeah, there's no rejection. So we confuse it because chemically, like, it feels good, but we confuse it with actually like applying the skill. It's no different than people, and we've all met them, who like peacocks. They're super puffed up when they tell you what their goals are, but they're like confusing that with actually accomplishing the goals, because you get a huge hit of dopamine when you like profess your goals and like, declare them, and it feels good, but you can confuse that with actually doing them. I remember a guy came to me and he was like, yeah, bro, I got some accountability in my life. I'm like, okay, good for you. I'm like, what'd you do? He's like, well, I'm going to pay this guy like $5,000 if I don't if I don't prospect and let him know that I did it, then I'm going to have to write the check. And I was like, well, good for you. Can you do me a favor? He was like, yeah. I'm like, can you postpone your excitement and energy until a year has gone by and he didn't cash your check? Because those are not the same things. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, with the doing part, you come up with better questions as well too, to ask like your mentors. So like, I know Jaime comes to me with questions, and the questions are so much better because they're based not on imaginary situations. They're based on real life situations that he's going through at the present moment, basically. Not only that, but it's more impactful for him because he's learning in real time as well too.
Yeah, it's a great point. So you actually end up, like, the basics are the foundation, but then as you start to apply, scenarios start to pop up because of the reps, and then you can actually go and get the most from a mentor or guide, because they can then say, oh yeah, in this scenario do this, in this scenario do this, and in doing so you end up radically increasing the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's different forms of learning. Lowest form of learning is reading and writing, which is interesting because that's our formal education. The second highest form of learning is simulation, which is pretending to do the real thing. For us, that's role play. The highest form of learning is doing the real thing. So the goal would be is every day to read, write, simulate, do the real thing. So what would that look like? That would look like reading scripts, writing them out, sort of thing, and then simulate, which would be role play every day, and then prospect every day and talk to actual people. So read, write, simulate, do the real thing. Read, write, simulate, do the real thing. And if you are consistent there, you will radically improve the learning curve, and then it starts to compound over time. So like, do that for a year, you'll be 10 times better than you were when you started. Do it for 2 years, you'll be like 100 times better you were when you first started. Do it for 5 years, so on and so forth. It just keeps compounding and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. Dorian said, I heard that. Yep. Yeah. Now don't just hear it, like apply it. You know what I'm saying? And, like, the thing I think is super interesting about that is, like, we want it to be a hack. We live in a time where there's like, everybody's looking for the hack. The hack with vitamins to live longer and whatever, the hack with like, I don't know, money hacks and this and that. When, if you just look to nature, like, nature will show you, like, is there a hack to making like an apple tree grow faster? Like, not really, dude. All you can do is like give it water, good soil, and some sunlight, right? And it also is a process that takes time, an extended period of time. Like, you don't get an apple tree in like a month, you know? And what also happens too is that for a while, it looks like nothing's happening. And then you start to see that growth happen. So, you know, again, if it's not worth doing for a decade, it's not worth doing for a day. Recognize that this skill is something that like, it's no different than learning how to be a really good surgeon, no different than learning how to play the guitar really well, no different than learning how to, I don't know, quilt really well. It takes time to acquire. And, you know, I think the more that we elongate time horizons, the better we make it on ourselves. Because what I see people do is they have unrealistic expectations, but then they think something's wrong with them. And it's like, nah, dude, you haven't, like, if I was to follow you around every day, you say like, I heard that. If I was to follow you around every day, are your actions reflective of the fact that you're actually walking down the path of like mastery, like really getting good? Because if not, like, don't bellyache about the outcomes. Like, don't pray for like A+ like results with C+ habits.
Mm-hmm.
It's not realistic, and truthfully, it's immature. You know, he said, "Who won the big game at the retreat?" We didn't end up playing. Yeah, my pleasure, Barrett. 100%. Yeah, we didn't end up playing. The court was too far away.
That's what they didn't want any.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I've been talking to Angel though. He's set up like he's got like Garcia pickleball going on in his backyard.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Nice.
dude. He's got like a whole thing and people are coming over. And I talked to him the other day. I'm like, bro, I see what you've been posting. I'm like, are you waiting for me to come down there and whip you up? And he's like, every time I play, I'm like, hey, I got to figure out if I could try to beat Aaron.
That's funny.
Every time he steps on the court, I'm like, dude, I'm going to have Sebastian come with me and he'll beat you.
Have you guys actually ever played against each other?
No, we've never played. No.
That's funny. It sounds addicting.
Oh yeah,
like the game.
It is super fun, super, and you can play for a long time as you get older, and like it's fun, and it is addicting. He's playing like at every chance he gets now when he's in the area, because I know he's all over the place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, bro. So for those who may not be aware, hold on, let me see if I can drop this. Like we got 6 months out for the Do More Deals Summit. And last year we had Leo Perea there, CEO of EXP. We had Pace Morby, #1 creative finance guy on the planet. And, you know, it's been so awesome, Jose, to see the byproduct of that. So like you gave a talk on, hey, here's how I'm implementing, creative. Pace gave a talk. People were inspired. We've had like 6 or 7 deals done since then on the creative side that have produced like at least $200,000 in revenue for those agents who have participated in those transactions, which is so powerful to see a direct correlation between exposure and then those who have the courage to apply and outcomes, which is like so awesome. So we're 6 months out, believe it or not, to the next Do More Deals Summit. And we have right now availability, because we just made tickets available, and for a short period of time till the end of the month, we have an early bird special, right? Pace Morby agreed to come back, so he's going to be in the building. The lineup's going to be just silly, right? Equally, if not more powerful, if that's at all possible, from last year. And we'd love for you guys to be in the room. You know, love to take the parasocial relationship into the physical world and get to know each other. Those events are really designed around equipping you with everything you need to know from a really high level to strategically deal with marketplace conditions, so that way you can do your unfair share of the business and make more money. So I'm going to drop the link here in the chat. You got anything you want to say about the Do More Deal Summit, Jose?
I would just say some of the best things that ever happened in my life came from attending events. I feel like it's almost like a time where you can reflect and look back at your business and then come back with 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're going to change or modify or pick up on. And just one of those things or one relationship could actually change. For me, it was things that I learned, and it's also been relationships as well too that I've developed as well too from these events. So I would encourage anybody who is interested in learning or interested in growing their business to attend the do more deals summit.
That's right. And me and Jose actually met each other at an event, and that's been a life
So did
changing.
me and Angel.
Yeah. So, and the move there is the VIP. The move is the VIP, right? Because you get lunch with Pace, which is crazy, and also lunch with the speaker. So you get breakfast and lunch, as well as the actual event itself. So we look forward to seeing you there. Let's go, let's grow. Elite Builders out.
Later, guys. Peace.